There you go.
Hi, Christina. It's lovely to see you again.
Lovely to see you again, too.
I'm Delisa West. I'm a dream doula and a life coach and an artist.
I'm Christina Spataro. I'm a psychotherapist and relationship coach and writer.
Yay! We both told our secret, not so secret passions, and that's what
Yes.
we're going to talk about today. I was just thinking recently that several of my longtime friends have said to me recently, "You're so brave." And I thought, I don't feel brave. I feel kind of scared as I'm going through my life. I'm like, ooh, should I really? Do I? And then I thought, what is it about that that's touching someone? And I think it's because I'm really moving into doing what I love and living the way I want. And I've moved away from my longtime home of Seattle, Washington to live in Southern California and be an artist and a life coach. And when people talk to me and when they see me from afar, they're like, wow, you're so brave. And just yesterday, I was walking around the neighborhood saying, well, okay, what is that? Like, if you're shining your light and you're living your life most authentically,
Right.
people say you're lit up. And are we illuminating the way for others to be lit up too? That's what I came to. It's like if you're shining your light so someone else can see their way.
I love that. I love that idea that you're being a guiding light to somebody
Mm,
else, because a lot of people are not shining their light. And it's understandable. Maybe they've been through things or they feel pressures in their lives. So they're not lighting their true light. So I think a huge part of what we do is we show people what a light can look like, which is why it's also important if you are going to go to a therapist or a coach that they actually like what they do. Uh,
Indeed,
so
they should like what they
yes,
do.
it should like what they do so that we can at least show you this is kind of when you're in your element, this is what it should look like. But yes, shining your light, what lights you up inside. And here's the thing, I think where a lot of people get in trouble is where they have felt pressured, either familial pressure or societal pressure to do things that don't light them up. So
Yeah.
they've made compromises. And to be sure, yes, again, I'm always cognizant of financial realities. I get it. You know, we all have our bills to pay and things to do. But within that, can you still find something that lights you up? Can you still find something that brings you joy? Whatever that is.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend earlier today, and she is a nutritionist. She is a hairstylist. She does Reiki. And the thing that lights her up is gardening.
Nice.
And so she was talking about how lovely it was to be in the garden the other day, watering the raspberry bushes.
Mhm.
Now, when I was younger, I'd be like, that just sounds silly. What are you talking about? But now I so get it. Like you can have a tiny moment of joy, and that just spills around your whole world. Just
Absolutely.
watering the plants in her
Great.
garden gives her joy. And for you, tell me more about your writing.
My writing definitely gives me joy. Because I don't know, when I get into the world building and I start creating characters, I get lost in it and I enjoy it. I really do. And it's a place that's always brought me joy from the time I was very little. So, you know, like I said, when we had this whole crazy pandemic thing started and I was alone in my apartment and feeling like, okay, yeah, end of world, sirens going on all day. This is kind of freaky, doing this world building thing where I'm literally creating these characters and they became very real to me. Don't worry, I knew they weren't. But the point is, I was creating these characters and other worlds, and I created a whole little universe. I created my own multiverse with people populated by this whole lineage of characters. And it was,
I've That's so cool. I've heard that writers, I'm not a writer, I'm a painter, but I've heard that writers start in that kind of process. And then at a certain time, it's like the characters become so real that they tell you what to write.
yes, it's so true. It's freaky, but it's true.
Yeah.
I remember in pre-pandemic days, I went to this writers conference, and there was this woman, and they always would have these great keynote speakers. And the keynote for this one, she was an author, and she was talking about this series of books she had. And she's like, when I first started the series, I didn't know this guy had a brother. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, I'm writing him. I'm like, he's got a brother. Who's his brother? What's his brother do? And before I knew it, I was writing him a brother. It's true.
That's
It's
amazing.
true. It does take on a life of its own. You know, in my other writers group, we talk about the notion of how we really are, like, we get into this world place. There actually is an episode of the Twilight Zone that takes this to a whole other level. It's an old black and white episode where this author, his characters literally come to life. Now, of course, Twilight Zone takes it to a whole different space. I don't remember the exact title. I'll look it up and then I'll phone it to you. You can press it in the show notes.
Okay.
And it does, like, the characters do take on, because when you're in this world building, you're thinking, okay, so you kind of have this average, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I one time wrote with a story, and it started with it was like raining. It was like a rainy day. And I had been fighting my umbrella. And then I suddenly was imagining, what if there was a character? And I saw him very clearly. What if he had just come in out of the rain and he'd been battling his umbrella, and then it got broken by the time he got to the office, and his coat was all wet. And then he first comes in and he's besieged by messages from the secretary of, hey, Jack, it's wet out there, huh? You know, we have these messages for you. And he's thinking, great. So now I've got to deal with this. But then one of those messages leads the call to adventure. And suddenly his life could take on a whole new journey. And before I knew it, he was going from his average office environment to trying something completely different. And that was just from being inspired of, what if somebody was struggling with an umbrella in the rain?
That's so cool. That's so cool. I often think when I'm in my art studio making a painting or even having something on the wall at my home, I sometimes think the painting tells me what it needs next.
Mhm,
Or the drawing says,
mhm.
"Ooh, put this over here." And during COVID, I made these giant for me, 6 foot tall drawings that were 4 feet wide. And I would start them and then I would look at them for a while. And then just as though maybe they were having a conversation with me, be like, put a foot over there, or make this into a creature that has a beak. Or what if the hands are claws? What if you put words over there and all the words turned into the dress? And I would go, okay, home alone.
Yeah,
I'm home alone, but I say okay out loud, like, what a
right,
great idea. And then I go
right.
do it. Yeah.
There you go.
What a
I
great
mean,
idea.
yeah, I think we are both artists. You're artist, you are the pictorial representation, where mine is the written canvas. But
Yeah.
both of us wait for that page to speak to us, to tell
Yes.
us what it needs next.
Yes. Yes. Well, there's a kind of painting where I learned it from a therapist. So you may or may
Mhm,
not have heard of this, called process painting. And basically, you don't make a painting that's supposed to look like anything. You
mhm.
just start putting marks down on the paper. And then eventually the painting tells you what it needs next.
I like that.
And at first I was like, no, it can't be true. And the guy running the workshop I did, he goes, artists have the hardest time with this. If you're not an artist, I can tell you how to process paint all day long. It's easy. But if you are an artist, you want to make it into something, you want
Mhm.
to use the techniques you already know, but that's not what this is about. It's just like, what color am I going to put on the paintbrush?
Yeah.
And then walk over, and where am I going to put that on the page? over and over until the page is full and it eventually looks like something. And sometimes it's very surprising what it looks like. I'm like, oh, I wasn't painting anything and it turned into eggs or
Yes.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. I've used that with clients and the idea where they're not sure what they want. I'm like, okay, I want you to don't think about it. Just take this paper and just start drawing and see what comes out.
Mm. And
Don't-
do you do it live? So they're on a call with you while you're doing it?
Yes. Like, don't think about it. Don't just start drawing, see what comes out of you. Because it's when we start censoring, it's when we start thinking, when we start putting conditionals on it, when we start saying, well, that doesn't make sense. No, no, just
Right.
do it. Just do it. Just let go. Let go and let yourself be guided. I mean, you look at children, right? You give children paper and crayons and clay and all these things, and you watch all these imaginative things taking form because nobody's told them that they can't.
Oh, right on. Yeah. There's a famous Picasso quote. It's like all children know how to draw, and artists have to remember how to draw like children.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you
Draw like,
tell a little kid, paint me an alligator or whatever, they'll make some squiggles, some
"Mhm,
color that they chose, and they'll
mhm."
happily show it to you and say, alligator.
Yeah,
There was a
exactly.
I hung out with a 2-year-old for a while and he loved fire trucks. So
Oh,
everything he drew was a fire truck, but he couldn't draw anything except the squiggle. So he'd grab the pencil, he'd make a big squiggle and he'd say, fire truck. It was so fun to watch him.
plus, if you want a hint as to what really lights you up inside, try to think back to when you were a kid, before people got in your head. What really lit you up when you were a child? What did you most enjoy doing as a child before? And it can be anything. And don't think, oh, no, that's silly. Okay, no, just think, what was that thing you most enjoyed?
What was it for you?
For me, I'm trying to think now. I always loved making up stories.
See?
That was my favorite thing. Whether I made up stories with my bath toys until I got all pruny in there. I made up stories I literally could make up stories with everything. I even had like these colored markers. I gave each colored marker a separate identity. Like they were characters in a story.
I love that. Okay, wait. So let's say you had 8 colors. You had 8
Mhm.
characters in a
Oh,
story, and
yeah,
then each time you pulled one out, it was like Susie Q was doing the thing.
exactly. Totally.
I love it.
They were individual characters. And because I had the different colors to work with, yeah, they were individual characters. So I love making up stories. I made up stories. And then I remember even when I had my bath toys, I had the fishy fin, I had Frank the speedboat, and then the sailboats, and they all had interrelationships.
That's beautiful, Christina. Well, when I was a kid, I guess I have to say I loved to color and draw pretty much on anything. We had these windows. I lived in Seattle in this really old building. And so as mother was cooking dinner, all the windows would fog up and then the condensation would drip down the windows. So the window ledges on the inside of these old wooden windows were always just a little bit wet. And I remember we had these pencils. One side was red and one side was blue.
Mm-hmm.
And if we put them in a certain place in the window, they got wet. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you drew on them while they were wet, they were much more luxurious to draw with than when they were
Nice.
dry. So as a kid, I remember playing with that wet, dry thing in the window ledge and also the floor. We had concrete floors, but they looked like they were
Mhm.
stone or something and they were scored. So if you put a piece of paper down on the concrete floor and you drew over it, you could you could draw those lines that were in the floor. Draw
Cool.
it, just a design would happen without much skill. So I guess I was an artist from the beginning, and you were a writer from the
Yeah,
beginning, and we had to find our way back to it somehow. Like it's
exactly.
finally okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You had your art, I had my so I was the storyteller, you were the artist. So
Yeah.
if you're wondering what lights you up. What did you really enjoy as a child?
Yeah.
And
What
if you,
did you enjoy and how do you
did you,
do it now?
yes, and how
Yeah.
do you do it now? And if you tell me you enjoyed playing in the mud, what was about playing in that mud?
Right. Because what could that mean?
What
Should
could
you
that?
be an adult and go play in the mud? Or maybe you like gardening?
Maybe you
Or
like
maybe,
gardening. Maybe you are a sculptor in some way. What did you do with the mud? Did you like digging holes? Did you like shaping it? Did you like the feel and texture of it? Do you want to take a
mm,
pottery class?
yeah.
Only you can answer that.
Okay, dear listener, think of what you loved when you were a little tiny tyke before life cranked you down
Mm-hmm.
and see if you can pull that out and if you can light yourself up by letting yourself be that creative person that you always were, that you came here to be.
Exactly.
Right on. Nice chat, Christina. We'll chat
Nice chat.
again soon.
Definitely. That was fun. Thank you.